Alright, what we're gonna do is another one of these. I don't think I ever did a commentary track on the finalized version of Act 2. Just a partially complete one. But first I'm gonna kind of briefly go over the Apocalypse Chronicles entries.
Unit 621. Report for patrol duty. On it.
I'm not going to go through the entirety of this one, and in fact, I'm going to keep the audio muted, or close to muted for most of it. This was a smaller idea, supposed to be, well, both of these chronicles were supposed to be to the effect of additional scenes in the movie that just took too much time and worked better as smaller things tossed on top of tossed out as separate things, and this is obviously the worst of the ones. Just using shitty vanilla weaponry against bad AI. Not much to this one. It's just trying to show that at least some of these rebel forces going up against the government system. They're not exactly good people. They're shooting up civilian residential areas, shooting the police, and the police are more or less just trying to do their jobs, keep the peace and everything. A little bit of a walking around the hospital back here where the story of Act 2 begins. A lot of monologuing, attempting to do accents and probably doing a terrible job. Having stupid bullshit happen. And the implication that there's some sort of sinister mind control thing implemented in the police suits that's there for the sake of causing controversial situations where at least for short periods, the police of this area are the ones shooting civilians, which is of course used for propaganda purposes. Anyway, not much to this one. I'll jump over to the more exciting and worthwhile of the...
So what's with all this old shit in here?
Worthwhile of the Chronicles videos. This one happens to take place at the same school system as the various segments of the intro of first Act 1. Happened to show.
It's a new law. Anything made in Germany prior to 2016 is considered ancient, racist, and overall national socialistic.
It also ends up being a bit monologue-y in the start with really just world building.
This entity wishes for us to cleanse this area of undesirables. As they call it, undesirables. Yes, the students and professors that are supposed to be here today, they're the ones with the most resistance to whatever they're trying to teach.
Yep, indoctrination of the students, pushing political agendas, creating false flag events, to further push political agendas.
At these fucking places. And the money pays well.
I'm getting slightly fancy with the camera work and music mix, even if the camera work is actually just, for the most part, a pan.
They've been taught all their lives that if they stand still, make no movements whatsoever.
Honestly, I don't know why this... I don't remember this particular pan being in such slow motion, low frame rate.
Well, I don't anticipate any real threats. They don't even have security at this school. All we need to do, make sure job's done before any authorities come along. So how many do we need to get? All of them. I will be taking towards the cafeteria.
And unfortunately, these stupid, goddamn it, I didn't say go to full screen. These stupid twirl arounds is a bug in the in the camera. Camera add-on I was using to create fancier pans like this. So this just leads you through an area where these. It's a storage area. It happens to be the same place where the one professor was caught performing satanic sacrifices with two-dimensional doom sprites in the intro of Act 1. Just happened to be hanging out in the same place. A lot of Day of Defeat models.
The parking garage is down below, and there are certain flammable.
Like I said, I'm just more or less going to skip through these.
You will get the pool area.
This one's slightly better, so I'm not skipping as much.
Jameson, you will be.
It's a lot of exposition at the start, then a lot of shooting. And for quite a bit of it, it's the same shit that kind of plagued the start of, plagued a lot of, what was it, Act 1. Just shooting the regular civilians that stand there and do nothing because they have no AI packages that tells them to do anything smart. This was a pain in the ass to set up, for sure. Took a few tries to get the door to actually go in the right direction. Would be nice if the AI actually had any sort of package that did anything at all. You know, just simply, you know, running away instead of just standing there. You know, why would anything Valve related be made well? This one was slightly better because, yeah, the first shooter went to one of the few active classrooms on the day. Second one took care of the lunch area and it's down here towards the parking garage that was mentioned in the initial dialogue. Initial dialogue. Trying to set some things up in the back of the ambulance. It is a bit dark. Well, all my work that went into that got ruined because it ended up too dark to see anything. Just trying to animate running across like that is a total pain in the ass. Anyway, this guy went to take care of the swimming school. Nobody knows how to swim. But, you know, it's a little bit of picture-in-picture. That was poor cameramanship, but that's supposed to be a student that has a little more of a brain diving underwater, try to stay in safety. Just get some bullshit from work. Hopefully the team that works at the night can take care of it. It's just all garbage that isn't anywhere near as high priority. Let's see. Anyway, fourth guy. I thought he was supposed to do something with a classroom. Ends up getting sent over to a lab instead. Gets spooked and shoots. That's totally not an accidental button click or anything. Yeah, these are super straightforward and very simplistic. Both of these ones. I'll let this carry on just a little more. This one in particular actually does tie into, well, I guess not Act 2, but the start of Act 3. Started the setup. they, the entire team was meant to be martyred. This actually, I don't know if it's possible to really tell, but this is actually a pretty difficult set of blending. Because this is actually the second death that this person, the player character, went through. Because the first one, the camera went the wrong way, looked terrible. This one looks a lot better. But anyway, yeah. A little bit of power of God, fucking protagonist shit. Oops. But wait, first, this is, first guy gets taken out. Again, there's not a whole lot to say here. Power of God's wearing off. This guy's actually dying. And of course, as is the case with that unscripted shit where you just make shit up as you go along. End up having him go the wrong place before deciding, you know, the other side of the room is actually smarter. Music here is the final two tracks off of Trivium's first full album. So I think their self-titled, the original self-titled, was technically a demo. I don't remember the names. You know, it ends up working. You get some action out of it, then you get the sad ending. Though, as I say in the disclaimer for both this and I think all the videos, you know, there's no implied or intended glorification of the events that occur here. These are not heroes. This is very dark. It's supposed to be dark, of course. The one of the things I went for, at least in Act 2, and subsequently the Chronicles, was a darker vision, rather than branding things up, just so slightly to deal with YouTube's bullshit. Darker and drearier, and well, for Act 3, I'm actually doing things even more differently. Lighting and color-wise. Oops, I forgot to show, taking out the guy on the roof. Yeah, this is basic stuff. There's very little that needs to be discussed as to how it gets made, but fuck. Well, I'm not gonna waste it. 13 minutes. Hold on. Now we're finally into something that's slightly interesting. Yeah, basic premise of this thing. God, that looks like something fucking weird and spooky. I'm gonna cycle this off of that. It's just the shine of the revolver, but I don't want to see it. Yeah, false flag shooting. Used for this news report that comes up. You know, for the usual shit. Just part of the political undertones. And of course, we got television station United Nations Broadcasting Channel. This is a clip from Blood Debts, I do believe. A Filipino movie with some pretty obvious dubbing thrown in.
Following today's events, German authorities have called for house-to-house searches, confiscating any and all weapons.
And yeah, you get the idea. Face rig used to show off the police or the news report sort of thing. Unfortunately, for some reason, the lip sync just doesn't work. I don't know. I don't know if I have to run the audio for that before putting the compressor on or what to get it to work. Fuck it, let's get to the actual goddamn fucking movie. Alright, so as is kind of a common theme with the Apocalypse series, when it's the main movies at least, it starts with something slow and musical. In this case, we're covering, what happened in the previous movie, the apocalyptic tendencies, the destruction. Here's, of course, the MK Ultra guy. So one thing I will say here is these extra clips, like the lights, and moving forward, I would have, if I re-edited this and still had the footage, I would have made this start as soon as the lyrics start instead of waiting that small bit longer. That ends up making it a little more awkward. Of course, perfectly, there's a United Nations flag. Now here, that's clearly a different character model for Pepin Gates' character. During one of the wonderful Gary's Mod updates, which is something that happens every time that fucking program updates, it broke the classic Scout model, which is the one I was using. Of course, the Scout model in general is fairly out of place for something that's supposed to be serious, given it's all cartoony and untextured. But whatever. So he's got the generic one. No badly drawn goatee or anything. Unfortunate thing is I had to actually go through and shoot all these characters again because I didn't keep a save after that point. Then it wasn't until I got to the point of making this that I thought of doing a sort of montage thing at the start to just glance over the carnage of the previous movie. I'm using that same camera technique that I used in the second of the Chronicles supplementary clips here. And luckily this time the only spin around bug that will never be fixed because the mod maker doesn't actually do what he's supposed to. He just tosses the shit up there and never touches it again. It only happened once on that stairway. Seems a little redundant, but this shows a little more of the carnage than that rapid zoom out did. So yeah, it's not just a recap of what happened. It's kind of the aftermath of things that had happened. This town in particular is a total pain in the ass because it worked fine here, but when I tried to make footage of it for Act 3's intro, because it just happened to show up there as well. Apparently some of the mods got taken down off the workshop, which means the local copy is not allowed to work anymore, because that's how cloud services work, and that's why any sort of cloud service and anyone shilling it needs to die of cancer. So this is the mayor, I guess, or something, of this sovereign miniature nation. But the entire thing here is, it looks goofy, but this is actually Kevin Gates' entire family there. Yeah, the hitbox on the truck sucks. It's not they don't actually sit in the back of the truck, but yeah, this is a funeral thing. I tell you, it's a pain in the ass trying to drive while the camera's on it. It's on a flying path. This is a bug in the map. Nothing I can do about it, other than wish that the map maker would get off his ass and go and fix his fucking shit instead of leaving it in this broken state. This happens to be the church that's outside of the sovereign nation, but is obviously allied. The remnants of the the raid on the house. Yeah, the intro here is actually a multi-part thing. This was kind of fun to put together. Actually found a caution tape texture for the rope tool. So the initial town massacre, and so of course it's going to get fucked up by the goddamn camera tool bug, but police are, you know, it's a crime scene that's being investigated now, that sort of thing. And unfortunately, this is a problem. Lazy map making. Somewhat unfortunately, I did end up going back and reusing this footage from the first movie. Put under a black and light filter. Same terrible, horrible camera pan. Same everything floating. Sniping everything. You know, the intro, like I said, the intro is just going over the carnage and devastation that was wrought in the first movie. With a bit of, I think the band is called Aria, As We Died. Originally, for this segment, I was going to use some, what's the band name? I try to find the band name. Luckily, this thing sticks to the window. Into Eternity. I was going to use some Into Eternity from, God damn it. The Incurable Tragedy. One of the instrumental songs. I remember it distinctly because I timed it so that's when the guitar does a certain riff. It shows this certain part where she shoots herself. Now we finally get into something a little more new. The crappy fly around through the hospital. This is actually before I found that tool, and of course I never went and refilmed it because that's just too much work, and it already took over a year to finish this one. It was just another look at how shit the situation here is. How shit the situation is in this fictional version of Europe. Though in some parts of Europe, it's probably not looking too different from the reality. You got a building that exploded, and the fire team with the really shitty equipment is trying to put it out. You know, right next to a tiny hospital. Which also just happens to remind me of how questionable some of these Half-Life 2 mappers are. You go through the trouble of making everything always look like it's 2 or 3 or more stories tall, and it's always inevitably just one single story with no way to get to the other floors on the inside. We got some fighting in the streets between the police force and some gangs. There's actually one of the burnt, the charred corpse models by this car, but I don't think it shows up. And this part of the scene here, this is actually why I was originally going with that old song. In fact, that's actually playing here. Part of it has the EKG beep. That's part of the song. Kept it as a sound effect here. And the idle animations of the Black Mesa scientist just happens to line up with this kind of despair and sadness one would expect of a doctor that's about to lose his patient, which in this case happens to be the protagonist of this movie, Jack, the guy that got shot with the rest of his family and his girlfriend, but managed to survive. Just pretend there's an EKG animation here. I never got around to finding one. Finding or making one that I could put in there. Now we finished the intro just in time to start another intro. There just wasn't any way to get everything I wanted in one just single introduction, and I couldn't really be bothered to turn another one of them into a preview or chronicles video. It just didn't work without all being together. This is also another situation where I had to redo the music. Originally, this used the Offspring again, because some of their older songs are, for one thing, actually genuinely good. For another thing, they work for things like this. Have you ever, in the first one with, the theme of falling, everything falling apart, have you ever felt like something's just pulling you around? Here I used The Kids Aren't Alright, which is, it ties into exactly what's being going to be shown here. The entire point was, at some point, things were great, and then everything went to shit. Fell apart. The goofy placement of some of the words is, track motion used for other events, and it just happened to look nice, having it applied to these words as well. So of course we got some serious kicking here. Instead of the Offspring, Sirius isn't going to be filing DMCA claims or any dumb shit. Damn it. So throughout this, you get to see a bunch of minor characters that, they would have had very slightly larger role if I was allowed to keep the original music in without having it muted worldwide. But the intention is, it's a group of friends, including Jack and Pepin, in the good days when things were tenable, things were great and worth living. They just happened to be in Physics Town. And the idea is through a gate, you get to the part of town that Jack's house was in. You got a lot of them are just kind of generic stereotypes, because that's what lazy hack writers do when they create characters. That's why all the kids shows, they have the same exact generic archetypes in every character. There's slightly more nuance in shows meant for older groups. So here's the weird loner type guy. Here's someone who, I don't know, lusts after him, or just stays close to him or something. Kind of a thrill seeker, must be. just holding out of his hand while he's up there and trying not to fall. One of them's old enough to have, old enough to drive at this point. Shitty old man outside a cafe that one of them, well, the parents of one of them happens to own. Some sequences got cut from an earlier draft because of the music change. I no longer needed to time anything to lyrics, so I just cut it out and replace it with nicer things. Like a look into the sun. It's blurry as shit because there's motion blur everywhere. There's wow, that face looks fucking creepy. Can we get a better angle? Okay, this works a little better. There's Pepin spray painting the statue. He's one of those weirdos, the types that took up the mantle when in this fictional universe the shit like DNA rearrangement occurred, so he could become his cool lizard character. And his girlfriend, who was accepting of it. And, here's another person that ended up doing the same thing, and as per generic stereotypes, he's, the fat guy. Up here in front is the mayor, noticing what's going on, the vandalism, and bitching about it. Of course, as you saw, Jack over there. That's kind of the group of characters. Now we
I
get to
burst
see
out crying for no reason at all.
how bad things really are at this point. And this is right now in the exact present in the story universe. This is what's happening at the same time as all the shit Jack is going through. I am using reports from a Fox News broadcast about Detroit because it obviously Detroit is not Europe. It's completely different, but it fits perfectly with the exact type of situation that Europe in this universe is currently living through. And again, some would argue that it fits what the real world Europe is going through.
But I believe that's depression and being so afraid here.
Yeah, the AV is not fully in sync for these clips. They actually didn't even have the voice for most of it until I went and redid the music, because they had to get rid of the offspring. The upside of having to change the music is this fits the depressing tone better.
House, the last story.
You've got bars on the inside of your house.
Yes.
It's Mary's Life of Locke.
And what's happening here is the physics engine being a pain in the ass and not letting me get what I want in the first place, but it is a bridge collapsing because terrible drivers are retards. A fucking fuel tank explodes, and well, you can imagine the after effects. This is just some weird shit that the map maker put in, some floating magic elevator that gets you from here to here.
Her only companion, the sound of water from a shattered pipe at this broken home. We talked with two former residents of and asked them to come out for an interview.
It's like that in the video. It's in the original source video. The location is bleeped out. I don't know why, but it's most clearly somewhere in Detroit. I guess if it had anything to do with the neighborhood, it was probably bleeped out for safety of this old lonely white woman stuck in hell.
Everyone else here up and left. Lock after lock, another layer of protection after they broke down the bars. The only thing she doesn't have is a moat.
All right, so this is where you get into the part of the kids aren't all right song that was originally supposed to be here. Where shit starts going bad. The lyrics talking about how things get fucked up for everyone. This is this would have been from the lyrics that Janie had a chance. She really did. Says she dropped out and had a couple of kids. So she's pregnant here with some water, and yeah, it's the depression on her face is fully intentional. Not only has she lost any opportunity she would have had, she also got knocked up by a guy that turned himself into a fucking lizard to play off some D&D tier role-playing garbage. She now regrets what she's done. And of course, the fat guy just ends up eating the lots, looking at porn on the internet, and watching shitty television. And this guy, depressed with what he's done with himself, ends up killing himself. If I can try to cycle back to where that was and get a better slow motion thing on it. Yeah, it does end up showing up, but this is supposed to be a transparent wood board that breaks with the gunshot effect. So it's so, the character stands up straight and then falls back with a shotgun barrel under his mouth. Rough shit. Of course, I forgot a couple other things pointing out the lyrics. This would be, well, now I gotta pull up the goddamn lyrics. Because I'm not remembering the the names that are here. Because obviously it fit most perfectly when you just claimed that the characters had the names. So this would be the gecko fur fag would be Mark. Lives at home because he's got no job. Just plays guitar and smokes a lot of pot. And gets the munchies. This is a degenerate. This would be Jay, realizing what he's done, how he's wasted his life, and he can't go back to being a normal human being. Because he fell for it. Fell for promises and lies. And realizes that he's ruined his girlfriend permanently. A lot of mental scarring. Because even if the kids come out alive from that coupling, they're going to be horrible mutants. So she's probably going to end up offing herself as well. And this would be Brandon. He OD'd and died. The depressed Slav saw exactly just how bad things were getting, drank himself into a stupor, and of course, diet sausages are there because it's a stalker model. So, oh, diet sausage memes. It's hard to see, but this is where the thrill seeker that was holding onto the thing, holding onto the pillar, and Slav named Brandon. She's down here. The bottom of the bridge explosion. This is just a quick shot of blood from the cafe. Actually, slightly starting to depress myself just looking at the terrible, terrible, depressing world that I created for this series. The sad thing is, it's not that far detached from reality. As I've said with the Apocalypse series, it's based on reality by taking the logical conclusion of what is being pushed and pushing it there. A lot of things that people say they want now, they're implemented here. The way governments and university students, the way they're pushing things to go, it's there now. And it's ultimately led to the degradation of society to such a low point. This is obviously taking place before the bridge explosion. You got some idiots that lost control of their car, crashed. This idiot's on his phone, and guess what happens? Whoops. Ran them both over. Oh, he's just devastated. Look at that. Look at that facial expression. Oh no! I've done a terrible thing! And what's that? Rich guy in the Hummer? Doesn't give a fuck. It's just bad. And look at this, it gets worse. New mayor. This is the new mayor. Press conference out here by the statue. That's been cleaned up by this point. Look at that. Poor maintenance. Look what it's caused. Everybody's dead. Small insurgencies are taken up in this part of the town. Yes, this is intentional. It's supposed to be the people walking around with their phones held vertical, filming things. This is a police and military unit shooting up the civilians here. This is just some guy walking up behind him. He's shot to death. Of course, unfortunately, some of the civilians are using doom weapons, so you get stupid shit like that guy flying.
My heart is broken. I mean, just looking at this right over here.
This is her memory lane, living across from the house she was raised.
We used to play under the street light till 11, 12 o'clock at night.
A light she'll turn out when she leaves, maybe soon.
Alright, intro number 2 is done. And it just gives you an indication of just how bad things really are, even with the new music. That loses the lyrical attachment to what's happened. We start getting into more of the meat of the movie. And then fucking goddamn it, I didn't even click that, you piece of shit.
She'll turn out when she leaves, maybe soon.
I've been considering doing another Chronicles, even when that's just mostly audio, like an audio log, explaining this, but there's supposed to be a false panel here covering this up and hiding it from view, which would explain why nothing was able to find this previously. Shader effects are pretty nice. Here we have our guest voice actor, Kiefer Sutherland. I just used some unused audio clips from Ground Zero. Give him a little bit of breathing. So the animation's going to be awkward. I'd actually initially done the breathing sounds myself. This just sounded a lot better, even if it does get repetitive, jumping through the same 8 sound effects. So it's pretty blatant, but the tubing opened up and he made it out. You know, this is the sort of thing that works out a lot better when you've got professional animators and shit. So, you know, arms move and everything, and it's not just relying on the overly fast Half-Life 2 crouch uncrouch speed. I'd say about half of these effects are in-game shaders, half of them are post-processing. The implication here is he's shaking his shoulder, trying to wake him up. Okay, the horror stingers end up sounding cheesy, but ultimately what's supposed to be happening here is some genuine horror over the fact that every fucking doctor in here has been mercilessly slaughtered. And worst of all, this is... I don't know how blatant or obvious it is. It was intended to be very much so, but that's Jack. But you're seeing through the eyes of Jack. Even the people out in the lobby were slaughtered. And behind the counter, there's not one left alive. For some reason, these weren't usable. These are, well, one of the mods I've got installed replaces the standard healing items with stalker stalker ones. For some reason, they weren't working. But, pain in the ass. Nothing wants to work. So the entire idea here is he's just kind of almost instinctually knowing where the healing items are in the back of this hospital, despite having never been here before. You know, it needs some healing to be able to go on, though visually it doesn't appear that anything's changed. I think this is one of those stupid self-closing doors, which makes everything a pain in the ass. One of many voices inside the head.
Are you alright? I can call the doctor.
This does benefit from a little bit of learning from the previous movie and the decades-old 3D movie maker shitfests that I made. I actually cut a significant amount of travel out. So only the remotely important bits of travel still exist. And what that static thing is about, I don't know. I think there was actually just some glitch in the recording that was related to it.
Kitty Flora's flower shop has filed a lawsuit related to the alien visitation.
So if you pay attention and listen to it, it's kind of stupid, but the news report that's playing on the TV, you know, it's lifted out of Duke Nukem Forever. So it's talking about alien visitations and shit, and flower shops. Just ambient noise. I thought fit, even with the TV being on. And a little better audio attention paying than was present in the first movie. Got reliable reverb set up everywhere.
Has arrived. Head to the rally point.
Obviously, this is a completely different person that we're seeing right now. So graciously takes a piss break before the voice tells him where to go. Yet another situation where I actually learn from mistakes and cut out most of the walking. Because there's no need to see every fucking step.
We've brought a cache of supplies. You'll find it on the table to your right. Be sure you're ready before you move out.
This is somewhat disappointing, the way it was set. Because ultimately, I never thought to actually have a person there. I did for a while have some weird shadow effect, make it look like somebody was there. So ultimately, the scene just ends up looking awkward.
I'm sure I won't be around much longer. Remember,
So it's not like the acting was that better. And that is actually, come to think of it, why I started interspersing clips like this in.
Decided you are guilty. They've decided all of us are guilty. They slaughter in the town square. They slaughter in your hospital. It's all going to be blamed on you.
That's what this is. This is actually footage from various Soros paid protests, riots more like, against a legitimately elected president. I think it's actually pre-election.
We'll do what we can to stem the tide of the enemy, but it's ultimately your choice, your abilities. You will be the one to save us all.
Yeah, much like the Detroit clips used in the second half of the intro, it worked perfectly to show just how bad things are. And just think, with how bad things really were in the U.S., and continue to be with these false prepaid riots coming out of the old Soros checkbook. With how bad things are there, it's even worse in this universe.
Such a term were shameful. I ask you, what greater endeavor exists than that of an insistence on suicide, if you will?
The cutting and mixing of the sentence wasn't actually intended to be that way. It just ended up being that way with the camera angle changes, but it does end up working, especially for the effect that's supposed to be going on here. Just look who most of the crowd is, and look who's telling them that one of the greatest insistences, one of the greatest things that can be done, is an insistence on suicide.
Did the lungfish refuse to breathe air? It did not. Ignorant and doomed to spite their eternal vigilance. Would we model ourselves on the trilobite?
And yeah, it's just the just generic Braincast, but it's cut up to be a bit more
All
sinister.
the accomplishments of humanity faded to nothing more.
And that's a little fuck up with the wonderful engine here. The fucking gun clips to the door, and it doesn't recognize the fact that I pressed a button to open the door.
A layer of broken plastic shards thinly strewn across a fossil.
And this is another situation where I get fucked by the shitty AI. These guards are supposed to be rushing up and shooting, but no, they're just standing there. They can't see because this fucking transparent thing is in the way. So instead I had to bring in a couple extra combat soldiers in the back. Still have the postal dude voice in, so this dude's another MK Ultra victim. But much like what happened at the end of Act 1, where Pepin was kind of pushed to go against the UN military installation instead of taking part in another one of their schemes. It's the same thing here. The technology has been hijacked by someone with far more benevolent reasons.
This can't be good for me, but I feel great.
Of course, as you see, the police force here, they're even going after the people, the unarmed civilians that are just standing there, doing exactly as they've been told, just standing there. Of course, there's also an implication that some of the characters are actually Eastern European here, based on the sound. Now this is very, very low grade at this point. It's just a very small revolution. Sponsored by Live for Dead. There's just that first MK Ultra victim. Now here's another one, incidentally. Some Slav of some sort. Shooting everybody up with a scorpion. Not really that much more to this. It's a lot more shooting. It's another shootout, only without the annoying color correction, and with jumping through an entire folder of freedom sound effects. And a little bit of fun having to work around a crash. Somewhere around here, one of the military vehicles explodes. And it actually crashes the game, so I have to fucking store myself from there. Yeah, the problem with the stalker sound effects is they don't have enough space at the bottom or space at the end for the reverb to really work. So I'm sure there's something that I didn't think of at the time that could have made the reverb work perfectly and not just cut off. There is an invisible wall in the middle of this bridge, and I think I ran into it a few times. So that's the reason behind some of the awkward shit. Not that, though. That's just badly made mods. Very buggy. Yeah, this is actually where the game crashed, so of course I, just like I came up with the explanation for the postal dude voice and everything, and the AI, the retarded AI that just stands there as you shoot it, I turned it into something. It's instead him temporarily blacking out for the pain. I don't know, he's out of ammo. All done to the tune of some music from the free part of the Thief 4 soundtrack.
This is bullshit. This isn't what I signed up for. It's the only way to get them to listen. The people won't go along with our plans without a push. Remember, John, we have your family. fucked this up. And they're all dead. Bastard.
There's actually, as mentioned there, and much related to the much related to the topic of the second of the Chronicles movies. The one of the school. This is a false flag operation. This is a military operative forced into this, which is incidentally shooting civilians and fire department personnel. It gets slightly awkward, and what was even worse is all the gun sounds. I ended up having to put it in post. I think the implication that's supposed to be here is that this was done far faster than was actually shown. This sort of bullet time thing. Everybody else moves in slow motion. He's just zipping around, popping off, taking out everybody that's trying to fix things that wasn't already killed inside the hospital. I'm gonna, in Act 3, in either Act 3 or in another Chronicles mini movie, I'm gonna try to elaborate on that. But just a general story for that situation, for that sequence, is he had to come along with a partner who helped him get down to the sniping position. That partner was supposed to have a ladder set up so he could climb up and get out of there. But the ladder's gone, the partner's gone. And I would leave the rest of the story for that, for when I finish it. So now we just have the sniper being dragged away. Passing out a few times to disguise clip and scene transitions. Now you can't see a thing. So he's still alive for now, but captured. Now we've got a scene off towards this would be up closer to Norway, up in that part of Europe, using one of the wonderful physics maps. Let's just try to show that again, if I can get to it. Because that's a little bit of editing there. Once I can show it, I can genuinely say I'm fairly proud of it. It's a lot like the intro I made for Crisis Warhead, when I still made intros for every gameplay video. That's just to keep speed with the tree, but jumps into a different scene while I pass a tree. So this is a somewhat of an esoteric member of the main villains of the universe. For some reason, the things that were back here disappeared. I don't know why. Physics maps are buggy in general. And that's a voice changer. with the female Metro Cop model. This took a little bit to get thrown together. And this is supposed to just be a holographic projection somewhere, but it ends up almost sitting inside this pillar. This is working out pretty well as with regards to why the movie is only 720p. Gary's mod is a buggy piece of shit, and if you set it to a higher resolution than its than your native monitor, then it will inevitably, every time you start it back up, drop down to the native monitor. It's just source engine bullshit. Even Gamebryo can handle non-standard resolutions, right? This can't.
From the United Nations Army. On orders from my superiors, I was conscripted to... I caused the massacre at the Cologne Hospital.
So over the mysterious group that captured him, it's not even at this point known, because I haven't decided whether or not to pursue that in terms of story making with Act 3. They're forcing him to tell the truth about the situation, and this is not just being broadcast here. This is being broadcast hijacked on all the all the TV stations. Boy, wouldn't it have been great if I actually fucking showed that in the movie.
It was a false flag. To blame on the nationalist rebels.
Well, I can't remember what I was going to say there.
Corporal, how could this be?
So this is the bug bait from Half-Life 2. This is being repurposed here as a biological weapon of some sort. Partially, God damn it, guys. Because Combine soldiers, when you hit them with it, do a weird, almost dance-looking thing. And of course, I repurposed that for something a little more sinister. Anyway, this is the partner of that Corporal John Ashcroft, the guy that did the sniping thing. So clearly, she's a traitor.
Did you think it'd be that easy?
So you more or less saw that, right? That's sort of shield generation system. Now the way this bioweapon works, it has a longer range. So the idea was hitting the two guards on the sides, that would be enough to fill the entire room very quickly with that. And for better or worse, most certainly worse, no. Unfortunately, the double agent was not able to get out.
You're not the only rat on the inside. We will find your friends. And we will put them down under.
And of course, this is just kind of exploiting one of the features of this physics map. And the backing story of this is either going to be explored in Act 3 or in the Chronicles movie, but looks like we got a little bit of a problem.
This can't be. Someone changed the coordinates?
Looks like wrong target got hit. So this is a nuclear device. He was supposed to hit somewhere else entirely. Most certainly a pro-rebel location. And of course we're getting multiple angles of it because it's worth showing a few times, even if the frame rate dies here. It was supposed to hit somewhere else. Ended up hitting a little too close to this. Of course, it's still completely decimating many civilians, but it just happened to hit one of the controlling globalist elites places.
You fucking traitorous bitch! Jesus Christ!
And yep, here's yet another angle.
This simply cannot be happening.
Yeah, I think the C may have gone a little overboard with doing it 5 different ways. Not really much I can really defend that with. That was just, that was definitely excessive. Even if you, even if I were to make the insinuation that the last repeat was just a different angle on him doing the final execution shot on the double agent, whatever, can come back and fix it, and it's certainly still better than Act 1. Now this is kind of blatant, but yes, this is blatantly taking a fucking Call of Duty 4 video out of it. This may look like the Middle East, but this is supposed to actually be somewhere in Norway. Let's just say there's some sort of climate fuckery in this universe. It had pretty much the perfect fucking music set to go with it, and extra extra news dialogue and whatever it is. Fuck. I just wanted to show a good aftermath of the explosion, and the best I could do was show how Activision did it. Well, rather, how Activision paid Infinity Ward to do it, then paid him to do it again. So obviously this is from the remastered version.
Come on, get up. It's time to wake up, Jack.
I don't know, that sequence seemed a lot better when putting it together, but it just seems disappointing and dumb when getting to the point of trying to do a commentary on it and trying to explain the motivation. I guess it's not really that far off from trying to cover the sequences that are just shootouts, because there's not really much of anything on, but not much of anything that you can really explain. It's just a shootout. It's NPCs placed around. In this case, it's showing the same explosion 5 different times. Trying to come up with a justification for playing around with the nuke feature of the physics map, and grabbing a cutscene from a game to use as an aftermath.
This city's turning into a war zone. Any friend or ally you thought you might have had here is gone. We saved you once. I don't think you'd be able to handle another body transplant. Just try to recognize who you are. Try to remember. They tried to get you in the hospital, and perhaps they did. But at the same time they didn't. And you're still here. Who are you? Who the fuck is speaking? Saber Jack, we're not here.
So, I don't know. I'm fucking tired. Which is part of the reason I'm falling apart on the comedy front here. But one of the voices in the head, inspiration taken directly from Far Cry 2 with every single character talking like that, talking quickly, not really pausing between sentences, acting like they're rushed. They want you to get your line said and done, get you out of there because they're apparently paying by the hour, not by the line. And obviously the speaking voice for Jack doesn't fit at all doesn't remotely fit the Kiefer Sutherland breathing. But I don't know. Had to figure something out.
You can't see us, we're not a physical thing.
For the most part, he doesn't speak.
The operation didn't go quite as planned. The more you speak, the more dissonance builds up in your head. Even if everything feels wrong, you're still you. You just have to remember. The agent that visited you earlier. He's gone now, but he left you a good supply cache. Make use of it. This body's much more resilient than your old one. You'll be glad to be rid of cancer, but even this body has limits. You'll be able to take punishing amounts of damage and live through it, but you'll need this suit to stay alive. Now go. Consider everyone in this city a threat. The people that tried to kill you again are still out there.
Big fucking exposition dump is the name of this half of the scene. It's it covers a lot. It really does. It's so this body that Jack has, it's now it's part of a super soldier project. As alluded to before, I'm probably going to make a chronicle video that explains it better story-wise instead of just rambling into headset mic at 11:54 on a work night. But yeah, the body's used for a super soldier project. It's got the regenerating health sort of thing, nanomachine son. The suit is there to block a lot of damage and obviously make things easier in that regard. So at least this character, now that he's truly the full protagonist, has a much better excuse for seeming invulnerable than any other character.
Police think you're part of the rebellion. That's what your body's from. The former leader. The rebels will think you're a plant, a trick. The citizens will turn you into either of them just to save their own skins.
The leader of one of the rebellion factions. There are many. Some of the rebellion factions, they are on the side of good. Others, they're quite villainous. In fact, the villainous ones, they're the ones that showed up in the police patrol chronicle video. They happen to also be the ones that the police are fighting later on in this movie. This was the leader, the body that Jack has now. This was the leader of the good side. Ended up getting himself caught and killed. They used his body for the super soldier project.
The train line to the coast. You'll find a vehicle there. Make your way to Stoneheim, the winter village. If that's compromised, you'll have to make it to Lancan Dane.
Don't go out there, it's a war zone. Are you fucking crazy? Keep them down, man. Keep them down. Establish a base of fire. Go, go, go! Rebels on the balcony. Get an RPG out. We're calling in air support.
So as I mentioned, this is where the bad guys of the bad guys of the rebellion, they're attacking. The military is attacking, and it would be a very bad situation for Jack if this was a more nuanced game. Because to make it work as it is right now, the guys in the duty exoskeleton armor, they're allied AI, and everybody else is the enemy AI. I think that's a fucking error sign back there.
We got a rebel at the train station after him. We don't have the manpower.
Yeah, train station security's dead. And unfortunately, this suffers from a little bit of fucking around with physics objects. And the escape. Not really too much else to that, just a kind of awkward looking escape from the city. Would have turned out better if there was some more nuance in the AI and if I were a more capable filmmaker, but whatever, we got a better scene coming up with even better music. So unfortunately, it wasn't until I was partway through setting this up that I realized that this is actually just a version of the fucking coast. The very unfortunate thing here is that the helicopters do not work as expected. Also, unlike another thing that pisses me off about this fucking game, and it's a fucking shitty cloud-based add-on service. The full-body first-person view that you see at the beginning, that's used with the guy up on the balcony with the scorpion. That would have been helpful for this and any other first-person scene. But no, it didn't work as soon as I went back online. It's a piece of shit. And, the other thing that's a royal pain in the ass is the goddamn S-mod kick. It never does what you want it to do. Try to open the door quickly, it opens the wrong way. And I'm still pissed off about these fucking helicopters. These fucking helicopters were supposed to shoot at me the entire time. It'd be an actual threat, but they just float there. But no, as soon as you get inside a vehicle, they actually do something. That's something I had a lot of fun making, putting together when making this. It's obviously not. It's obviously a bit faked. It's multiple different runs. Obviously, you can tell if you pay attention. There's nobody running up here. This is it falls apart differently. But it was a lot of fun to put together. Get a nice little picture-in-picture deal here. Blow up the bridge. The implication is that there was a trap set down here that was outwitted. The trap was outwitted very easily because simply from seeing three hostiles show up right in front of your face. You don't want to take another step and move forward. Of course, in retrospect, I probably should never have switched over to this VSS for fighting. I think that's the first bit of shot that the fucking helicopter ever does. Yeah, the VSS just used to things being a little more awkward. I patched some of the holes in the bridge that you're supposed to platform and douche around, you know, in Half-Life 2. Patched them with the broken ladders and shit. Broken ladders, pieces of fence. And of course, the thing that really sucks about something like this is it only works if you try to do it in one take, and then everything fucks up and breaks during that one take. Of course, you get cool shit like that, jumping down here and immediately blasting somebody off to the side. They still get awkward shit like standing around reloading your gun. Falling through the ladder. Or pulling out a gun only to have to immediately reload it because the last reload didn't count. Big pain in the ass, but I think the scene ultimately worked for the better. And to some extent, the indecisive looking shit here with, you know, the walking around, standing, looking around, where do I go? And I think that ultimately actually does kind of work. Slightly better than your average real action movie where, you know, the protagonist is just such a badass. He knows exactly where to go at all times, even in places he's never been. This is some Hammerfall playing in the background. Something for Nothing, a very, very good album as a whole, but also very good instrumental track. Very deliberate choice putting this music here. One of the big, very important things about movie making here is the choice of music. This, just imagine, this isn't great cinematography and by any means great writing either. Anything of the sort, but it does end up being a lot more entertaining to watch and much nicer with the music. Whoops, fell off the cliff. So part of the point here is to show that he is still vulnerable. He's a super soldier, but a human being. This was part of a fucking update of this piece of shit program that fucked with the occlusion mapping for things. So that's why you get shit like those pillars disappearing. So it's looking too far down. What a god-awful program. But there's nothing really better out there for it. Oh, source filmmaker. Yeah, sure, if you know how to animate. Yep, just a little bit of awkward fun. Trip over a fucking container. These are the vehicles all the military got to that, got to the bridge with. Just by pure implication, and like a light in shining darkness. Here's this piece of shit called a seat. A special fancy vehicle model with a practically invisible holographic steering wheel. Yeah, see, you get into a vehicle, the helicopter immediately starts shooting. I think I had to redo this a couple of times because the helicopter did a time or two completely destroy the car. course, firing up a little bit of Modern Warfare 2 music from the snowmobile chase. A little bit more driving is awkward, because driving in this game is awkward. Just goes as it goes. You get stuck dealing with shit. I forget the name of the town, but this is that snow town that the voice was talking about. Look at that. Some of the bad rebels are here. Some poor attempts at setting up roadblocks. Really do wish that a different sound effect was chosen for tires being popped in the S-Cars mod system. Sounds too stupid. Now, it's possible a bit more could have been done with this area. But ultimately, what ended up being done was simply making it a quick run through. Because exactly as the voice said, if it's overrun, you'll have to go to Lan Kang Dam. Of course, here's some annoyance with the fucking... some of the weaponry. The realistic walk and run mod slows down your sprint speed significantly, so it get that awkward bit of slowness after putting the revolver away, though it's not really known when the revolver became available. Just pretend it was on the table or something, I don't know. Fun fact that the police barriers here, that they both actually had living officers set there, hostile to the rebel douchebags here. And what ultimately happened is apparently the antithesis of the usual Half-Life 2 engine fight. The enemies won. Yes, they're the police now. They, I guess, yeah, they are outnumbered, but normally, even when outnumbered, the friendlies beat the enemies 100% of the time. Have to do a fade to black in each case here because the way every modder makes them their fucking levels, you know, it's they always inevitably every fucking time make it so that it looks like the tunnel caved in rather than having something else block it off. And in this scene, in the previous two, you probably notice the color correction here. It makes it look more like it's more like it's dusk. The sun is setting. Intentional, purely intentional. And what have we here? Not only is the field of view tightened, so I guess it was supposed to make it look a little better here, but we've got bandits. And yes, they are actually a distinct faction. These are just run-of-the-mill criminals that have taken over this area because law enforcement has been, you know, they've had their hands full with other things in other places. Powerful little car, this one. Even a big-ass rusted van can't stop it. However, a roadblock can.
What? What is this?
This is your hometown. Or something resembling it. Without meaning to affirm the complexity of the monthly shrine of blood. Simply put, this is your hometown as you remember it. But all these things look different.
As you remember it, but obviously different. So it's past midnight, and I'm going to have to split this into a multi-part commentary track. I don't know if I would have been able to get through the entire thing if I didn't waste time on the chronicles, but yeah, I'll have to come back and finish up the final 25 or so minutes of this tomorrow.